Tourette's podcast is not a medical advice show. It's a show about experiences. In the course of that, we may talk about medications or therapies or stories from the doctor's office. But don't mistake any of that for medical advice or direction. It's not.
Get that only from people or places licensed or certified to give it, not from a massively fun or action packed podcast about our life experiences.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Tourette's podcast. I'm Brittany.
And I'm Jhonelle. And today we're going to be talking about advocacy, all things advocating, our experience, and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yes, advocacy can be a very interesting, tricky, and exciting and cruel place. Yeah. All of those things all at the same time.
That is true. That is very true. I know that I didn't start advocating until way later as an adult, not till I think it was 2021-ish, maybe 2022. I'm not sure anymore. But how long have you been advocating about Tourette syndrome?
Realistically, I think I've been advocating since I was a kid, honestly, in my own way. Not online, obviously. Online wasn't a thing when I was first diagnosed, which is crazy for me to think about. But I started with papers and stuff like that. I was actually just talking or writing about this the other day because I'm speaking at I'm keynoting at the Tourette camp in Pennsylvania next weekend, and I'm very excited about it. Thank you.
Yay.
And I was writing going over my speech and stuff, and I was talking about how I didn't have the kind of stuff like today, like you being able to go to the Tourette conference this weekend, which will have been passed by the time everybody's listening to this episode, but still. And how, so I just found my own way to talk about it whenever I could. So I would write papers about it in school, especially if I would present them in front of the class. It was an easy way to just tell my teachers and my classmates about what Tourette syndrome really was. And it was an easier way, and it was a more casual way, because I've always felt that when I first tell people that if I try to say it casually, I feel like they take it more casually too. And so it's an easier way to accept it from the other side.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah. So that's been my experience anyways. And then when the internet became a thing, I decided to do that. I think I've been doing YouTube either 7 or 8 years. I'm not sure. I just did a video complaining about dumb people on the internet today, talking about it. So it was
I saw.
Yeah, it was either 7 or 8 years. I don't remember. So definitely not all of a sudden, as people have been liking to tell me lately, that I'm apparently a child who did it all of a sudden when I'm a grown adult.
Yes. So you're an OG advocate on YouTube. I love that for you. That's so great. Yeah, like I said, I didn't start until I can't remember if it was 2021 or 2022. I feel like my timeline is all messed up in the past couple years. But it definitely has been, what is this, 2024? So yeah, I think it's been 3 years because this is my third year doing advocacy stuff. Okay, so 2021.
Okay.
And it wasn't necessarily anything I really advocated for. And like you said, even getting to present at the camp, the kids are going to be able to see all of this information out there, people's lived experiences, people talking about it, advice. But I remember growing up when I was dealing with my influx of tics as a teen, there wasn't really a lot. There might have been a video or two about it, but a lot of stuff was more just strictly scholastic, educational, which is fine. But as a teenager, it's okay, and now I'm learning what this means and looking this up.
Right.
There was still a bit of a disconnect in how it felt.
Yeah.
And the only thing, I've stated this before, I don't know if it was on this podcast or in a different episode that I've done, but the only thing that I remember finding that I felt some type of connection to was this website called Wall of Ticks, and it was just you would scroll down and the background looked like a brick wall, and it was just people that would type in what their ticks were. And so you might see but you don't know who it was.
Yeah.
You might just see blinking hard or flapping my wrist or making this sound, and then you'd be able to look and be oh my gosh, I have that tick, or oh, me too. And that was it. You don't know who the person is. It just kind of is.
Right.
Yeah, so that was the closest thing I got to like relating to people from who knows where, who knows what they put. Um, just like reading and scrolling and reading through the text to be like, oh my gosh, I do that too, or it just kind of helped validate my experience a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, there wasn't a ton of people talking about it, or the YouTube stuff that I did find was, this probably ages me a little bit. Do you remember? Do you remember those videos where people would not say anything? The whole video was just music, and they'd write down a whole story on cards or like
Yes.
paper, and then they'd
Yes.
like get the next paper and the
Right.
next paper. Yeah, that's pretty much how that went, of people sharing their story. And so I would just sit there and watch those
Man,
and be like, "Oh
maybe we should
wow,
make a video like that. Bring it back.
yeah,
Let's bring back the note card trend.
yes," with the music.
Yes.
That's pretty much how it started out for me. There was only like a couple people, which I'm hoping to have them as guests on the podcast since I know them personally. But
Yes.
there's only like a couple people that actually talked about it in other ways aside from just an anonymous post on a wall
Right.
and the silent video. So they were definitely helpful. And like I said, now that I know them in, well, one I know in real life, one I know more so online, but yeah, that was helpful for me.
So what made you want to start, like, putting yourself out there so much later? And I know you were
Mhm.
diagnosed as an adult as well, so that was part
Yes.
of it. Was it, like,
Yeah.
shortly after your diagnosis, you wanted to start talking about it? And, like, I th like, was it scary? Like,
Mhm.
what was that process for you? Just because I think
Sure.
other people might be going through that same thing that might wanna advocate, but they might be scared, whatever it might
Mhm.
be.
Yes. So, yeah, I did not get diagnosed until I was 26, which is because that's the age where you get kicked off your parents' insurance. The whole long story behind that, but I was finally able to go for myself to the
Yes.
doctor and the neurologist to get the referral and get the diagnosis. Um, I had, wanted to kind of talk about it beforehand. Like I remember, um, each year I would see people like as it got more popular with people just talking about their condition,
Right.
and advocating for it. I saw people post like I knew about the Tourette Association. I knew when Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month is or was. I knew these things, but I would just sit from a distance and watch and be like, maybe one day, but like I can't today or not this
Right.
month. And I also wanted to make sure that I had a diagnosis. Not saying that before I had the diagnosis I was not valid, but I just
Right.
didn't want to advocate for it and then be like, well, this is what I have. But then people were like, how do you know? It was just a weird
Right.
internalized
Yep.
bias against myself. Again, it's not like I was any less valid the 18 years that I dealt with ticks because
Right.
I was. But I was like, I don't want to say I have Tourette syndrome online if it's not that, just in
Right.
case the
Yeah,
doctor's
for
like,
sure.
actually, never mind. Right. So that was one of the things. But deep inside, I did know. uh, just because, again, it's like, hey, that's similar. Um, and then I think after that, I remember saying, like, okay, I'm going to post about it like during Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month, like the first day, that's like a perfect time. And funny enough, around the same time as when I first, um, I don't remember if I ended up contacting Ben, who was the host of the Tourette
Mhm.
podcast before, who still does amazing work with us. We appreciate you, Ben.
Right.
Um, or, or if he had made a post, like if anybody wanted to, be on a podcast episode or what. But I remember I was just like, like it was all happening around the same time where he's like, oh yeah, you can be on the podcast. What day works? And then I was like, well, I mean, this is going to be out in the world, so I might as well put it out in the world first, like as a post.
Right.
So I didn't really know. Like I remember, I'm a big overthinker. I don't know if anybody else can relate, but I
Hmm.
overthink a lot.
Me.
Yes, my friend makes jokes about how much I overthink. She's like, sometimes it's so simple, and you'll go from this stone to that stone, jump across the river, whatever. And that's just the way my brain works. And I was like, okay, I don't know what picture I'm gonna post because people usually post pictures from when they were younger, or sometimes they just post like a selfie, or sometimes they post pictures of them like in the community doing stuff. I don't have that. And so I just picked a random photo from like a couple years before when I was in New York visiting my family, and it was just me in the park. And I was like, this looks nice. And I remember sitting like trying to write, my caption out and then be like, no, 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 no. And I like erase it
Right.
and I like type something else and I'm like, no, 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 that's weird. And I like backspace and erase it. And then I was like, you know what? I'll come back to this another day. I saved it as a draft.
Mhm.
Well, then there was probably like a day or so before May 15th started, which is when Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month starts. I was like, okay, I need to figure this out because like it's about to start, like this first day,
Mhm.
that's when people post, it's about to
Right.
start. So I tried typing something else and I was like, no, 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 I like the other one better. I went back and forth. May 15th came. I was too scared to post it. I was like, no, like, because at this point, the only people that knew that I had Tourette syndrome, or at least tics in general, were that I specifically said, hey, this is what I have, versus people saying,
Right.
oh, that makes sense, um, was probably like 3 or 4 people. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, this is really scary. And I think I waited like 5, 6, 7 days before I finally was like, you know what? I remember I had somewhere to be, I had something to do. So I was like, I'm just going to like type out this. I have the caption typed out and I'm just not posting it. I'm going to click to post it. And then I'm going to be busy because I'm going to drive to this event. I'm going to do what I need to do. So I don't have to worry about
Right.
what the comments are saying, what people
Yes.
are saying, whatever. And so that's what I did. And then I was really scared and really nervous. But I was like, it's okay. Don't look at your phone. Just go. So I did my thing, came back home, saw I had a whole bunch of notifications on my phone, and I was really anxious because I had posted it to Instagram as well as
Right.
Facebook. So it was like
Yes.
this like big platforms where people are, interacting with you. It wasn't just like into the abyss of YouTube where anybody could find it. It was like
Right.
this is geared
Right.
towards, people that know me. And I remember on Facebook, a lot of people, 'cause, you have a collection of people on Facebook from like school days to whatever. So I had people from high school that were like, "Oh, like that makes sense. Like you always used to do stuff like that, and I just never knew why." So it was like there was no hiding it, especially as a
Yeah.
teenager when it was
Right.
really amped up. There's no hiding it. So they were like, "Oh, that makes sense." Somebody else that I knew from when I was younger had said like, "Oh, I noticed you always did that. I just thought, oh, whatever. That's thanks for sharing." Like a lot of people were there's a lot of positive response, which
Yeah.
is good.
Yes.
Um, People saying like, "Oh, like thanks for sharing," or "Oh my gosh, like you're so awesome," stuff like that.
I mean, they're
I
not
did have
wrong. So,
well, thank you. I did have a couple people ask me like more about it because they're like, "What? Like, you didn't really seem like you ever ticked." Like, a lot of people also said I never even noticed, which could
yeah.
be like a positive, like, "Oh, I never even noticed," but also after you hear it after a while, it's kind of like, "Well, you never noticed because I was sitting there."
Right.
Dealing with, hiding my ticks, suppressing my ticks, masking my ticks, and just not really having a good time. But yeah, I had somebody reach out to me asking about that, and I was like, oh, well, it's not that. She was basically saying that I didn't know you could just like turn it off and turn it on, and I was like, no, no, that's not happening.
No,
It's
right.
I'm just suppressing or masking.
Yeah.
Uh, but there was no turning it off and
Right.
on
No, I
because
wish. I wish I had an off button.
right, if there's an off button, yeah, I was just like, there's no, that's not a thing. So,
Right.
anyways, that's pretty much how it went. And then I went on the podcast with Ben, and he was asking me about, you know, my life with Tourette syndrome and how people responded. And I was like, I only came out about this like 3 days ago. And he was so shocked. That's like the title of the episode. It became the title of the episode like 3 days ago. Because at that point, when I finally pushed the button, it was 3 days later, it was our interview. So
Oh,
I kind
wow.
of went in full,
Yeah. You
face
just
first.
jumped right in.
Yeah,
And
I really
I
did.
connected you and I think connected because of the podcast because I saw him share
Hmm.
it. And
Yeah,
so I think I reshared it or something, and then you and I started talking, and it was just friendship from then on, I think.
exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I really went in pretty strong on that.
Yeah.
Even during a time period, because 2021, people had kind of been, already talking about ticks in general, even during the
Mhm.
height of the pandemic in 2020. So I also had seen people's negative responses. I got a lot of positive responses from people I knew, but I also saw a
Right.
lot of the fake claimers, a lot of the people saying
Yes.
all kinds of stuff, and I still chose to do it. I don't know why. I think it just
Yeah.
was like years of buildup that I just wanted to share about it because I had also worked with people with disabilities. I worked in the disability community in several different areas. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, I don't have a problem like speaking up for, the people that I'm working with or hanging out with whenever we're doing stuff. So I don't know
Right.
why I would not say anything for myself. I
Yep.
guess it's kind of where my brain went with that, and that's why I finally just decided to do it. And
Yeah.
here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah,
Now you're hosting a Tourette podcast.
I know.
Did
It's
you
so
ever think
wild.
it would turn into all of this?
I did not. That speaking at the conference, being on a panel, like all
Right.
the things. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's wild.
I am really struggling, I think, more than I thought I would, not being able to go.
Mm-hmm. I
And
know.
I feel bad saying that because Scott, my husband, for those that don't know, told me today that he feels really bad that I can't go because he
Mm.
tried to convince me going without him. But
Ah,
one, I don't do travel by myself,
yeah.
and two, like we're missing it. I'm because of a wedding, and you
Mm-hmm.
hopefully only get married once,
Right. Yeah.
and I can come to the Trek. Hopefully, I'll be at the Trek conference. I think they do every other year in person,
Mm-hmm.
so either next year or the year after that. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
They do
Maybe you and I can do a
Advocacy Day
session.
every year. So.
Yeah, that's true. And we weren't able to do that this year just because we had so much going on. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe the next conference you and I can do a session together or something. That would be
Yeah, dude,
cool.
that'd be so awesome. I'd be so
Yeah.
down.
So,
Um.
but no, I think it's really great, and I think the conference will give a lot of people, and I know we're talking about this beforehand, and everybody's going to be hearing this after, but
Mm-hmm.
so I can speak to my experience from the year prior or the conference prior that we were together at, where we
Right.
finally got to meet in person, where it felt like we
Mm-hmm.
met in person a million times before.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think if anybody's listening, like a parent or anything, I would say like if you're on the fence and you didn't go this year, I would definitely recommend. I had a parent reach out to me. I don't remember when. I think maybe when they first announced the conference,
Mm-hmm.
saying that we're thinking about going, but I'm really nervous about how exacerbated like I forget if it was her son or her child's tics
Mm-hmm.
were going to be. And so I remember telling her like, yes, that it's going to happen. Like Scott even told me like he's never seen me tick like that before
Yeah.
because you are triggered when you're around other people with Tourette syndrome. And I'll never forget too, like the first day during the keynote at the conference where the people that had a clapping tick and like one person
Yes.
would start and then it would
And
be
then
here, and then it
another
would be
and
here, and
another.
then it would be here.
Yes.
And
And
you
you have
could
10
just
people
hear it,
clapping. Yeah.
yeah, bouncing off the walls. But
Mm-hmm.
I remember I told her, I said, like, it's worth it though,
Yeah, for
especially
sure.
as a child, they get to experience people like them.
Mm-hmm.
And having never experienced that as a child and finally experiencing it as an adult 20 plus years later, it was insane.
Yeah.
I cried and teared up so many times, I think, just because it just felt so good to be in a room of people with me, like me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was writing about this too in like my speech and stuff, saying like, I was reading it to Scott because I always run everything by him, but and I was getting emotional, and I got emotional when I talked to the youth ambassadors in DC last year. Like, if you ever forget why you're doing this, like, look around this room, like, go in that room with all those kids where they get to be running around with kids
Yeah.
just like them, and how amazing that is for them. It makes me
Mm-hmm.
so happy that they get to grow up with that. And then
Yeah.
for me to see them and like them to come up, like Ellie, who is the sweetest and most amazing
Yes.
kid ever. Her mom sent me a thing this morning saying that Ellie was mad that I wasn't going to be there, which like filled me up. I'm like, "Ugh."
Oh, I know.
And
I'm
Scott,
sad
like
that
even
you're not
the
gonna be
other
there either.
day, yeah, even the other day, he was like, "You can still try to go." I'm like, "No, I can't."
Yeah.
You know how much more
Yeah.
stressful it would be to try to do that now.
Yeah. Last minute.
So, but I would say, like I said, if you're on the fence, bringing your kid because their ticks are going to be stronger, it's worth it. I don't know how you
Mm-hmm.
feel, but I would say 100%. Yeah, I was exhausted
Yeah.
at the end of it. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
For
Like,
sure.
and I had to go back to my room every once in a while to take some like breaks just because I
Mm-hmm.
was overstimulated with all my ticks and I needed just my hotel room, quiet room. But incredible. It felt
For sure.
so good to heal a part of me that I didn't know needed healed.
That makes me so happy for you. I love it every time you say that. It's so true though. I would agree. Like that, any type of like even like a Tourette camp support group, something because you like you said, like it is gonna exacerbate your tics almost guaranteed. Like everybody there was
Right.
saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm ticking so much more."
Right.
But it's this interesting contrast of like it could be anything, whether you're chatting or I'll give the example sitting in a presentation. As the person is talking, if they have Tourette syndrome or tic disorder, they're ticking, and then people are ticking, but nobody's like looking at you, telling you to be quiet. Nobody's
Right.
like you don't feel singled out. Like
Right.
I sit there and like bang on the desk, which I ended up picking that tick there because everybody was banging on the desk. So I would sit there and start banging on the desk and like maybe like have a vocal tick, like a loud kind of I don't really know what to call it, a noise where I go like like
Yeah.
down to up. Maybe it's like a Nike swoop, I
Yeah.
guess.
A vocal Nike swoop.
Yeah, a vocal Nike swoop. That's what I'm gonna start calling it. I promise you.
I
My
like
Nike swoop
it, and
tick.
it
That's what I'm gonna
makes
say.
so
Yeah.
much sense in my brain
Uh
when you
huh.
say it.
Exactly. And doing that, but like I'm doing it more often than I normally would if I was just in my everyday life. But then you hear somebody else ticking or you see somebody else ticking and then you're like, oh, like no,
Right.
like it's just everybody acts like it's normal. Like the person presenting is not sitting there looking at you like, oh what? Like you're just everybody's just chilling.
Right.
So yeah, I of course again the conference will have already ended by the time people hear this, but just in case you are listening and you saw me there and you thought, oh my gosh, what a great job she did presenting. Oh my gosh, how wonderful was she? I'm letting you know right now before the conference, 2 days before, I am still nervous because
Yeah.
I sitting here at home practicing my presentation am not going to be the same in levels of nervousness or tick severity, tick intensity, anything, tick
Right.
frequency as what I'm presenting. So I'm just like I had to like make my presentation shorter knowing that my ticks will fill up some of that time. I don't know if that makes any
Right.
sense.
No, that makes
Yeah.
sense because I was
Yeah.
doing the same thing when I was talking to Scott about mine for next weekend. I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
there's gonna be a lot more pauses in there because I'm gonna be ticking.
Mhm.
People in the room are gonna
Exactly.
be ticking that I might pause for or might not
Mhm.
pause for depending on how much it makes me tick. Because when I'm around a
Yeah.
lot of people with Tourette syndrome, I've learned since that conference is a lot of my vocal ticks will come out, like my grunting and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And it's because I'm around a lot of other vocal ticks, so it triggers them.
Yeah.
Like, I think I made a video, I think, the first night of the conference and talking about how excited I was to be there because I think I met
Yeah.
Emma and Haley the first night,
Mhm.
and, like, even just walking in the room, like, to go register and stuff, like, I got, like,
Yeah.
chills and I felt like crying because 'cause I'm like, "Oh my god,
Oh.
I'm about to be somewhere with people like me."
Mhm.
And, I made a video that night talking about it, and I was doing, like, my grunting thing, and somebody was like, is that a new tick? Like, I've never seen you do that in your videos before, and they weren't being mean about it,
Yeah.
which
Just curious.
yeah, and I was like, "Actually, no." I was like, "I've always had it, it just doesn't come out that often." But
Mhm.
I'm around a lot of other stuff, like, around a lot of other people with ticks, and I'm also excited and also nervous because I was presenting in 2 days, and I was terrified. Like, we were on the elevator the morning I was presenting for my session, and I was freaking out. And I told Scott, I'm
Hmm.
like, "I'm gonna throw up in this elevator right now." And he's like, "Please, please don't." And he's like, "Why are you so nervous?" He's like, "You've done this forever." I'm like, "This one means more.
Yeah.
It's to my people. It's to my
Yeah. Versus
family, my
advocating
community."
to somebody else. Yeah.
Right, and it's to people that actually know, like, I always, like, talk myself down when I get nervous when I'm doing it to people that, like, don't have Tourette syndrome. I'm like, "They don't know anything about it. I'm the expert in this room." That's, like, my pep talk
Exactly.
to myself to, like, gear myself up, so if I, like,
Yeah.
mess up, they don't
Exactly.
necessarily know, but I'm like,
It
"Here
feels
in this
different.
room, like, it gets nervous and nerve-wracking," and it meant so much more. It was a different level of advocacy for me, and, like, I always love doing stuff for the Tourette Association, which I was supposed to make one of those videos the other day, and I had food poisoning, so I didn't get to do it,
Oh
so
no.
I need to reach out to Emma and be like, "Hey, I'm so sorry, but let's
Oh.
reschedule." But,
Yeah.
um yeah, I don't know, like, it was an advocacy on a different level, and I don't know, it was just really special, and it
Mhm.
reminded me how far we have come with levels of advocacy,
Yeah.
because that
That's
can be
true.
hard to remember sometimes, when all the negativity and everything else is happening.
Mhm.
Like, I've said in that video today, I'm getting, like, a whole slew on that video all over again, which it's, like, the only I don't know what happened.
Ah.
YouTube hates me right now. My videos are like
It's
just
okay.
going right down the drain right now.
Oh, it's okay.
But anyways, that one is getting all these fake claiming comments again. And I think that's why it's so important to advocate. Yes, it gets discouraging, but it reminds me like, man, this is why we have to do this, because so many people can't fathom that this is real and that
Yeah.
they automatically go to it being fake. Like,
Right.
get
That's
out of
true.
here.
That's super. The I guess we can transition into some of the not so fun parts of advocating because it
Yeah.
is a thing, and I'm sure there might be people listening to this that do advocate and get that kind of advocacy burnout. Um,
Yes.
because it's very real. Because like you said, you have people. You have a. I mean, I guess you can describe the video you're talking about with your dog, but it's I think a simple video. I feel like dogs are genuine.
Right.
So they're not, you know what I mean? Like it's not like you're gonna force your dog to do anything. Like your dog was just genuinely
Right.
helping you while you were ticking. And yeah, it's just I can't. But hey, the way I look at it is the more people comment, even if it's negative, that's more engagement. And YouTube's gonna say,
Yep.
hey, people like to comment on this. Let's push it out to
Right.
more people. And it will reach the people
Exactly.
it needs to. So that's what I
Yeah.
think
So
about
go
that.
right ahead. But
Yes.
no, that is a very real thing that I think, as you said, for one, advocacy burnout's very real. And I go through it myself
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. I take breaks and
Yeah, same.
all this stuff. And it's okay to take breaks for anybody listening. I know I've talked to a couple people in the community. I don't want to like
Yeah, that's
necessarily
fine.
say names, but they've told me like somebody reached out to me specifically and said like, "Do you ever get burned out?" And I'm like, "Huh,
Yes.
yeah." Like if you took the time to look through my stuff, you would see I've gone through periods where like I haven't
Mm-hmm.
posted for like 3 weeks or something about
Yep.
Tourette syndrome because I am burnt out or I'm going through a hard time or
Mm-hmm.
I just don't feel like it or maybe everything got to me and because I go through periods of time too where I'm like, why am I even doing this? Because
Yeah,
nobody
does it even matter?
cares.
Mhm.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, I was looking up the other day about like, I'm like, why are my videos doing so poorly right now? Because they've been doing so well.
Mhm.
And I was telling Scott about this before we started, and I was like, and I look it up, and it's like I look up like the YouTube stuff and whatnot, and it's
Yeah.
like try posting about something people are interested in. I'm like,
Ah,
cool,
I can't.
thanks. So like, and I know like YouTube doesn't know necessarily like it was a basic thing, but I'm like, there's like maybe your viewers aren't interested in that anymore. I'm like, cool. What I've told myself my whole life is that people don't care. And I know people do, but
Mhm.
it gets to me. And so that will get to other people too. I think it's just
Yeah.
it's a natural path. Like it's a
Yeah.
roller coaster, just like Tourette syndrome is. Like
Mhm.
you have ups, you have downs, and it's okay to take those breaks. It's okay to take that time for yourself. Because I've always told myself that I'm gonna make videos, but I'm not gonna make a video just for the sake of making a video. It's
Mhm.
gonna be one that I wanna make. It's gonna be a topic I wanna talk about. Like I wanna be in that headspace to do it
Yeah.
because these mean something to me. And at the end of the day, I know that I'm at least making a difference for somebody somewhere. And so that's what keeps me going.
Mhm.
But I do take those breaks and sometimes like and I said like in my video today, I said like I can take it and I can't. But eventually it does get overwhelming. Like I'm
For
still a
sure.
human being with real feelings inside of my body and an adult as opposed to what a lot of the comments are saying today, which you know what?
Yeah.
Thanks for the compliment that I look so young. Whatever. So, I don't know. I think it is something that people have to consider when they want to advocate. And I will never discourage anybody for advocating. But one thing that I always, always, always want to make sure people know is that it does happen eventually. I
Yeah.
had a lot of positivity for the first, like, for a while, honestly. Like, I went a long time before people started saying stupid stuff to me.
Mhm.
But it's inevitable, especially now. People are so much meaner online now than ever
Yeah.
before, I think.
Bold.
Yes. Yeah. Bold is
The
a good,
audacity.
yes. And I just want people to think about like, make sure that you are mentally ready to handle that.
Yeah. Definitely use filters like or like the filter word tool, I guess.
Yes,
Social
yes,
media
yes.
usually has where you can like filter out words that you don't want to see.
Right.
Um which is never fun to do because you just basically sit there and be like, "What mean things would I not want to hear people call me?" and put it in, you know.
Or it's like,
But
what mean things have people said about me already
yeah,
that I never want
exactly,
to read
exactly.
again?
Yeah, so I filtered out certain things.
I've done the same
Just
thing on
depending
TikTok.
on
I have
your
the
audience.
word fake filtered out on my comments
Mhm.
on TikTok, so I never see them.
Yeah, that words of discrimination against
Yes.
my disability, my race, my size, like anything. I'm just like, no, thank you.
Right.
Um, it works because you don't even have to sit there and try to filter anything out. I mean, you don't
Right.
sit there have to delete it one by one. You just filter it out and you're good to go.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, the burnout situation is real. I feel like for me, it usually comes from a couple questions that pop in my head. Number one, is this is there a point to this still? Like I feel like the people that are following me or the people that are at least that know me in my life have seen tons of videos. So it's like I just feel like these are the people that are following me. So what's the point?
Right. No,
um,
yeah, I get that.
yeah. But yet still, there's things that happen where people are like, "Oh, because of you and your videos, insert situation here that was better." So I love that. Even just uh the other day when I posted for the first day of um you know, Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month, somebody was saying, "Oh, because of your videos and stuff, I kind of figured somebody in that I saw in the restaurant I was with like had Tourette Syndrome, and so like nobody really like I didn't say anything. I would have been like, "Oh, what are you doing?" But I didn't say anything. I just let them be, and
Right.
I'm like, "Yay!"
So
So
gold star for you.
yes, yeah. Anytime you get those little things where somebody contacts
Right.
you and says because of this or whatever, it definitely gives you, like, that, like, your reason, like, your why, like, "Oh, like, this is
Yes.
why I'm doing that." It doesn't matter that it's just one person, it doesn't matter,
Right.
how small or big it may have seemed, like, that's really the point of why like, it helps you bring you back to your why, like, that's the point of why I'm advocating.
Right.
That's
It,
the point
like,
of why I'm making these
reignites you.
videos.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was saying that's usually the first question that pops in my head. The second one, in terms of feeling burnt out, is, like do people not just do people that I know care anymore, but just people in general, like is this it sounds bad to say, but there's certain trends on the internet or certain things that people are like, okay, this is not people aren't really talking about their disabilities as much anymore. That was more of a old thing. Like everybody has something. Like we're not doing that. Now we're focusing on,
Right.
whatever. And so I'm like, is that even gonna matter in that sense? Like to people that don't know me slash the algorithm, like is that gonna or am I
Right.
gonna continue to get 20 videos, 20 views on a video, and
Right.
then, like, well, you know what I mean? It's like I'm putting out too much work for something that's not going to be considered valuable. Like you're saying with YouTube, like try
Yeah.
posting something people are interested in. It's like I don't know, like maybe people just really don't care anymore because they've heard as much as they can hear and they feel like next. But again, it's still going to reach somebody that needs it. So yeah,
Right.
it's
And if
definitely.
it's one person, I have to remind myself all the time, like, when I started this, I told myself if I help just one person,
Hmm.
I did what I wanted to do. And when I like you said, when I get those comments, when I get those messages, and just as, like, a thing to put out there. If you message me online and I don't respond, it's not that I didn't read it, it's that I get overwhelmed with
Yeah.
responding to things and then I forget after that.
Hmm.
So I apologize. So if you ever want to get a hold of me and I am not responding, message me again
Yeah.
because I'm terrible at it. And that's where I sometimes get burnt out. And I'm not saying that against like good comments, but I do read them and they fill me up. And one of the things I think that gets me the most is when a parent I remember the first time I got a message from a parent
Hmm.
and they sent me a picture of her daughter watching my video on the computer
Aw.
and her and she told me she's like my daughter loves you, she watches your videos, she's like and the first time she saw it she turned to me with a smile on her face and said mom she's like me and right and it makes me
Oh.
it makes me emotional because like that's what I wanted when I
Yeah.
was those kids ages
Younger.
like I
Exactly.
wanted to know I just wanted to see anybody that did what I did.
Hmm.
Like, I grew up with this giant family who is wonderful. I feel like I
Yeah.
always gotta put that out there because my family is so supportive. They'll probably listen to these episodes and stuff, and I love them. I wouldn't have been able to do what I do without them, but it was still different
Yeah.
because I was still the one that was different.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so when I got, like, that first message that I saw that and I saw that video, like or that picture, I'm just like,
I love that. And that
I
yeah, like you said, that fuels you for sure. Like you're like,
yeah.
"Oh my gosh, what I'm doing is actually helping somebody, like it's actually making a difference, especially a kid. Ugh,
Right.
yeah,
Like,
so worth it.
it is, and it is worth it, and that's what I'll say too with advocacy. It is worth all of the crap that you have to go through for it, the burnout, the imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
which is so real. Because
So
sometimes
real.
I'll be going like lately, and knock on wood,
Hmm.
my ticks have
I'll
been
knock for
like,
you as well.
thank you. My ticks have been
Yes.
okay. Like they've been ramping up a little bit now, just because I think because I'm one like in my feels about missing the conference. Two, I'm excited about the wedding I'm going to, and I'm
Yeah,
excited and nervous.
excitement.
Yeah, I'm excited and nervous about my speech next week too.
Hmm.
So, because this is my first like keynote, so I'm like
Yeah,
ecstatic, but also crazy nervous. Like, I hope I do a good job.
I'm so excited
And
for you.
thank you. So, but other than that, like my ticks have not been that bad. And you go through these periods, I think, where I'm like, I don't think I've ticked that much lately.
Hmm.
Like, what? Am I
Yeah.
okay? like,
Am I okay?
right.
Yeah.
And it's weird. And I think too, because it was hard, it's been weird for me because last year, like you and I talked a lot, and not to get into it, but like I went through a really bad period last year.
Hmm.
Like probably my lowest point as an adult ever, and my
Yeah.
highest tick frequency as an adult. So I think now for me to be like, I turned the corner with it, and for it to be like slowing down a little, like this week,
Hmm.
it's ramping up again, but it just almost feels weird. And I feel like it's also almost even more annoying. Like when I go through a waning period
Hmm.
and then I go back into like a starting of a waxing period, it's like it's so much more annoying to me. I'm like, I wasn't doing this. Like,
Yeah.
what's happening? Like I'm starting to do my like where I hit my elbow on the back of things and I'm leaning up against. And I haven't done
Yes.
that in a while. And I was doing that like crazy last year, slamming my back and slamming my elbows. And I was doing it on the couch the other day, and it gets
Mm.
triggered even more on the couch, I think, because I don't do the tick. It's not solid
Like
enough, I
it's,
don't
yeah,
think,
I
if
was gonna
that
say
makes
it's not a
sense.
hard surface. Yeah.
Yeah, for it to feel complete. Like sometimes I'll keep doing it and Scott will put his hand, like he tries to like help me,
Hmm.
and like he's like, "Will this help?" I'm like, "Actually, yeah, because that it's like
Hmm.
making the tick feel better. Keep your hand there for a second." I'm like, "But
Yeah.
just it's not my fault if I hurt you." And
It's not my fault. You put your hand there. I didn't tell you nothing.
yes,
You volunteered.
right. So, but it definitely gets to me more. Like I was doing it the other night, and I was annoyed with myself, and then I get annoyed that I'm annoyed with myself, and then I get annoyed,
Hmm.
and it's just like this pile. But yeah, it goes through, and you go through that imposter syndrome, and I think you definitely do making videos, because sometimes I'll be like, oh man,
Oh,
I didn't take very much in that video. That's weird.
oh my gosh. Yes.
And then you get called out for it, and then I stupidly get nervous. I'm like, crap, I didn't tick that. Of course, I didn't tick that much in the video. Can't wait for everybody to
Hmm.
say something about that.
Yeah.
And I think
I
I overthink.
can't. Yeah. It is a very real thing. And I actually, it'll probably be out by the time this episode goes up too, but I actually had the wonderful opportunity to do a video with Blair Imani. She does like a series called Smarter in Seconds where she teaches on different subjects. But in like a minute or like a minute and a half.
Yeah,
So she did one
that's
on
the one that
ticks.
I saw the other day.
Yes, she did one on ticks and
Yeah,
asked if I would join. So I was like, sure. And so, I had the lines that I was going to say or, the script because we'd go back and forth in the video. And I actually recorded, I'm going to basically put together the bloopers because everybody just sees the line. Oh, so
right,
perfect. Oh, she never ticked. The video's a minute and a half. Y'all going back and forth. She didn't tick. But there are literally so many things in that, in the whether it's just me generally messing up, which I think is good for people to see too, because when you sit there and
right,
you plan on a video, you try to make sure it's nice and perfect, and there might be a pause or two, but don't say too many likes or don't say too many ums or oh,
right,
wait, that sounded weird. Wait, do it in this voice or whatever. And so they're gonna see that, and then they're also gonna see all my ticking, like because I tried to not tick too much because I'm like we only have so much time. It's called Smarter in Seconds, so I can't just be sitting here ticking and then trying to say part of the sentence and then ticking. So it's like I have to, whatever. So I tick multiple takes of multiple things. And, talking about ticks and then also trying to not tick makes you tick. Um
right.
at least me, it makes me tick more.
Yep.
And because of that, usually whenever I like can't really tick, I feel like my body still tries to get it out some way. So
Mhm.
that's when I'll start doing new ticks. Like new
Yeah.
stuff will pop up. And there was one point that I messed up, and I like was like, oh, and I kind of leaned over and like put my hands on my knees. So then my body was like, okay, cool, and I started touching my knees and like bending down like I was touching my toes.
Yeah.
And I was like, now we're doing head, shoulders, knees, and toes as a tick. Like, what is happening? But yeah, I plan on posting like the bloopers of that just to show like the behind the scenes of what we go through when we record. I mean, it's
Right.
similar. Yeah, I've done a behind the scenes or like a bloopers video before because I just feel like people see the pretty cut, there's no ticks in
Right.
that. Even if it's just a general video of you just talking, like you putting your best self there, you're not going to put every single, mistake in there or ticks that interrupted you mid sentence and then now you forgot where you were. Like you're not necessarily going to put that in there.
Right.
I feel like even like with us doing the podcast, people will see me ticking more um in the video portion because I mean, I don't mind. I'm not mad about it. I actually don't mind. But we're watching each other tick,
Mhm.
so it's like this gonna trigger that. But if I was recording a video, I would just take these parts and then be like, cool, I'm talking, so I'm focused on what I'm saying, so I'm not ticking as much. Put that
Right.
in there. But I don't yeah, I feel like that's also where some of the imposter syndrome comes because you're like, well, people are saying I didn't tick, but I really didn't tick in like my last 3 videos. But yes, you did. You just didn't put it in there.
Right. Right.
So yeah, and even if you didn't and you had a great tick day, then that's fine. It doesn't just stop. Like it doesn't mean, oh well, you didn't tick, so you don't have Tourette syndrome. Like it
Right.
doesn't. It's not something that just stops.
Right.
So
And it's also 60 seconds. I
yeah,
have gone minutes of my life without
yeah,
ticking
exactly,
before.
exactly. Yeah.
And I don't know, just like you said, the audacity of people is insane in the advocacy realm. And no matter what you're advocating for, I think you have to be ready for that if you're advocating online.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be ready for that. But at the same time, I saw somebody, you know what? I think it was Ellie's mom, Amanda, maybe. She made like a
Mm-hmm.
story about it or something about how she hates when people are like, well, you put yourself, you were asking, like, you set yourself up for this. Like, you can't be mad when people do this
Mm.
because you're putting yourself out there. And she's like, no, you could just not be a jerk. And I'm like, yeah,
Exactly.
right. Yeah. And I know,
Oh,
like, I'm
that's
putting
true.
myself out there, I'm taking a quote unquote risk, but she's right. And hopefully I'm thinking of the right person, but I feel like I hear her voice in my head. So I think it
I
was her.
could totally hear her saying that. Yeah.
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 So,
We need to get her on the
hopefully she doesn't
podcast,
mind us
by the
talking
way.
about her.
We have to get her on the
Um,
podcast, obviously.
yes. I think that'd be actually a really good idea, like a parent perspective.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
we should
I'll
do
put it
that.
in the notes. Yeah, I'll put it in the
Yes.
notes.
But that's true. Like, yeah, we're putting ourselves out there, but like, and when people say like, well, what did you expect? I'm like, I don't know. Human decency?
Mm-hmm.
What do you expect when you go out into the world? People to be mean to you constantly? No.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because we did grow up with something that's made us different our whole lives, and so we just kind of have that
Mm-hmm.
empathy kind of sort of built in a little bit.
No, I still think that can be taught.
Yeah.
I still think because I have empathy for situations that I don't relate to. Like that's
Right.
not my life, that's not my story, but I empathize. So I think that's something that you can learn.
Yeah, you know what? Good point. You're right. You're
Yeah,
right.
definitely something that people just need to have a different outlook on.
Right. And
Period.
so, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you do have to be you need to be prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like your fault that you're getting these comments
No, yeah,
is
not
what
at
I would
all.
like want to say to people thinking about it. And it's important to advocate for yourself, but it's also okay if you're not ready to do
Mm-hmm.
that you just kind of like watch from the sidelines, if that's what you
Right.
want to say, because not
Mm-hmm.
everybody's comfortable
Or
with it, and that's
repost other
okay.
people's stuff. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine too.
and that's fine. But if you want to, I do think that it has definitely continued to help me accept it, and it's also continued to help me learn about myself. uh I also learned about myself, like, going to the conference. I learned that I'm not as confident taking in public like I thought I was.
Mm-hmm. That is,
Um,
I feel like I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where there's never a time that I'm embarrassed ticking in public in any
yeah,
type of situation. So yeah.
yeah, and, like, because I have people where, like, I'll talk about how I suppress or they'll bring it up and they'll ask me questions, like, friends of mine, they're like, my one friend, and she's like the sweetest person. She's like, I hope you don't feel like you have to do that when you're around us. And I'm like, it's not that you guys make me feel that way. I
Mhm.
know I'm safe here. It's my body's safety and defense mechanism
Yeah.
to suppress without me even thinking about it. And I didn't realize that until I think I went to the conference, and I'm trying to be better about it. But
Mhm.
I think I go through this phase too where I'm like, well, I don't want them to like be concerned about me and worry about me because
Yeah.
I'm ticking. So I'm going to try and suppress. And or like I tell them like I'm probably ticking around you more than you realize because I've gotten so good at like
Mhm.
masking it
Yeah.
and waiting until like even if I'm like looking at somebody, I realize like I think last year is when I realized this, like I've gotten so good without even trying to wait for the person to like, you
Look away.
hey, yeah. They eventually look away during the conversation and I let the tick out really quickly.
Mhm.
And I'm like, man, I got real good at that. That's like a
Yeah.
talent right there that I
That
didn't
is
even try to have. And so
it
like I
really
tell them
takes a
that.
lot. It really
Right.
does.
And that's what I try to tell people too that might never have seen me like cuz I always worry about that too. So the overthinking, the not necessarily imposter syndrome, but like just overthinking about what people think about you cuz I can sit
Mhm.
here and preach all day like don't worry about it, but
Yeah.
we all
It's
do on
still
some
yeah, it's still gonna
level.
be a thing.
And like I worry about people that like that I work with, not even just now, but like past jobs
Yeah.
anywhere, finding my videos and then being like, "Well, she doesn't do that stuff at work."
Mhm. Mhm.
It's like, I do, but I go to the bathroom and do it, or I wait until you
Right.
walk out of the room. I suppress as
Mhm.
long as I can until you get out of the room, and,
Yeah.
like, now I tell
That's
people,
why
like
I randomly started dancing.
right. I'm actually not tripping, I'm
Yeah.
ticking, and
Yeah.
they're tripping me, or I'm just ticking,
Mhm.
and
That was actually wasn't a sneeze. You said "bless you,"
right.
and I just said "thank you."
Right, my
Yeah.
neck doesn't hurt, I'm just pretending like it does, or my neck does
Mhm.
hurt, but that's not why my hand's here, it's to make
Right.
you think that I'm just stretching out my neck and having,
Exactly.
you know, kinks in my neck, which,
Yeah.
again, I probably have because I think
Mhm.
I have a click in my neck constantly now, like, if I move it up and down from my neck tick,
Oof. Yeah.
but, like, I'll tell people when I talk about it now, and I tell them, I'm like, "You probably won't see it that much here," especially now, like, my doggy
Mhm.
daycare world, where I'm around dogs all the
Yeah.
time, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm in a different realm here.
Mhm.
Even if they're not upfront with me, like, I'm around them and for some reason and I'm not super stressed at this job and that kind of stuff too, so I was like, it's really different. I was like, "So if you ever see anything online where I pop up, just
Mhm.
know that that's all very real,
Yeah, it
and I'm
is.
just in a different world here." And when I'm talking about it, I trigger myself and then sometimes and what the interesting thing to explain to people is like and also this really weird thing where my own face triggers my tics.
Mhm.
So, when I'm
Yeah.
staring at myself holding my camera, I know that I'm
Yeah.
gonna tick. And it's weird because like I expect it and so my body does it. And it's really weird because like I'll watch other people's videos and I'm sitting there and I'm like waiting. Like
Mhm.
why didn't they tick? I'm like, wait a minute.
Yes.
Because not everybody does,
Does
Brittany.
that. That's true. That is true. Yeah, I think there's so much that goes so many complexities about tic disorders in general, you know, and there's so many factors with why cuz like you were saying for example, when somebody's like, "Oh, like is that a new tic? Like the grunting, or is that something you've always had?" Where it's like, I don't know, like, for example, there might be something that's, like, triggering the tick. It could you have to deal with, like, that tick only comes out in this situation, like,
Right.
situational ticks, like, this is why I barely wear my hair down is because then I always have to flip my head back and then fix my hair,
Right.
and then now that this microphone is in front of me, it's transformed the tick to where I have to touch my hair to the microphone before flipping it back, and then is that an aspect of OCD into it, like, there's so many things that go into it that you're not gonna see that when I have the phone here and I'm recording and there's nothing in front of me. So,
Right.
and my hair is up. Like it's not you're not going to see that, but it doesn't mean that I'm putting anything on or,
Right.
now like it's just there's so many factors. Or like you said like if you're in more of a waning period, if you're focused on something so you're not taking as much or yeah, there's so much that goes into it
Right.
that sometimes I sit back and think about and I'm like, wow, this really is a complex type of thing. It's hard for
Right.
people to grasp because sometimes it's hard for me to grasp and realize, like,
Right.
well, yeah, I've noticed that every time XYZ happens, or I've noticed that I kind of do tick more when this happens, or like
Right.
I recently learned that I tick more, not tick more, but this is such a random trigger, but every time I would go to like a what's it called? Like a place like, I don't want to name brands and stuff, but a game like an arcade place, and they have that kind of weird like 40 ride, wherever you swipe your card to play,
Mhm.
and then you lay down, and then it like vibrates and moves like you're on the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Vibration on my head makes me tick so much, and that's such a weird thing to say, but I know
Oh.
because the other day somebody's like, "Oh, I have this like little head massager thing," and I was like, "Oh," and I put it on my head, and it was happening, and all I could think about was the 40 ride that I missed half of it because I was ticking and rolling my eyes, and I was like, "Vibration on my head." It's a weird trigger, but
Mhm.
it's happened every time. And then the head massager thing, I was like, "Yeah, this is a thing. It's a weird thing. It doesn't happen when I brush my teeth with my like
Right.
mag or whatever it's called, electronic
Yeah.
toothbrush, thankfully. But I guess on my head triggers me to tick. So that's you're not gonna see that unless something's vibrating on
Right.
my head. Like, and
Right.
that's really weird to say. Like it's a weird trigger for a tick, but it's happened every single time without a doubt.
Yeah,
So
and that's
yeah.
what's weird 'cause too, like, because when people ask questions, it's like I don't know if you go through this, like, when I don't know if it's a combo of me just being so excited that somebody asked a question and they are genuinely curious, but
Mm-hmm.
also, like, the complexity of it where, like, you get into one topic and then you're like, "Well, then that's because of A, B, and C," like you said, like, situational ticks, and then,
Yeah.
like, this situational tick, but only when I do this certain thing, and
Mm-hmm.
then, like, sometimes I'll go home and I'll be like, "Did I just, like, say too much?" Like, I
Yes.
just gave them so much information, and I, like,
Yeah.
think about you know how, like it's like the I've seen videos of it where people relate where I'm realizing a lot of people on the internet are just all the same, where it's just like, you go
Yeah.
home after a social situation rethinking everything that you
Yes.
said, and I'm just like,
Did that come across weird?
"Man."
Should I have said this? I should have just walked
Right.
away. Yeah.
And, like, sometimes I think I need to tell people, it's like, "We actually need more time to actually talk about this, so do you have, like, a quick
Mm-hmm.
half hour if you really wanna know? Because I got
Yeah.
a whole bunch of information I can get into to make you understand." I'm like, "As best you can."
That's
But,
true.
like, I was talking about it one time to a guy at work, he was really asking questions, and it was at the end of the day, and so it was that situation where, like, I was literally ready to go, but he started asking questions, so I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay,
Yeah.
let's go." And, he's a friend of mine still, and, I remember thinking that, I'm like, "Man, did I just make him stay, like, a half hour after work just to listen about my
He thought it
tick?"
was gonna be a quick answer. Yeah.
Right? But, no, it was cool because he would ask more later and stuff, and he ended up being a really good support system for me when I was going through everything at my job, and, like, he came
That's
over to
good.
me one time. I was ticking really bad during a meeting, and I was getting really fired up, and he always sat next to me too at the office, and he actually hung back after the meeting and came over, and he's like, "I just wanna ask, like, is there anything that I can do?
Mhm.
Like,
That's
do
nice.
you" Right, he's
That's
like, "Is there"
good. That's good to do.
Right, and so, like,
Yeah.
now I realize, I'm like, "Okay, maybe I didn't, like, share too much," like, because he's being very genuine and he's being a good
Yeah.
friend and stuff, and, but, like, it meant a lot, and so that's why, like, I do take those opportunities, but I do worry. I'm like, "Did I just overshare? Did I just give, like, half my life story?"
Mhm.
Like, when I was 7 years old,
Exactly. This is
do
how it
you
started, and then
Right,
here's how they evolved. Yeah.
right.
No, I get that for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like I can go off on tangents, like, when I do videos with, like, other people or something, if somebody asks me to be on their podcast or asks me to be in a video
Mhm.
or whatever, and I'll even say, you can probably even see it on some of them, like, "I'm sorry, I tend to, like, just don't know when to stop talking when I talk about this because there's so
Yeah.
many different realms that I can go to." And
They
they're
really
always nice,
are.
and they're like, "No, it's really interesting," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's interesting, but this this podcast or this, episode was supposed to be 20 minutes long, and here I am 45 minutes
Yeah.
later still answering the first question."
Yeah. It's okay though. I mean, that I think also shows your passion for advocacy, spreading awareness, educating people on it. Um,
Yeah.
and that's really good. That's
Yeah,
nothing to be ashamed of. Yes,
that's
I
true.
understand trying to figure out like time limits and constraints like I am for this presentation. Even though it's an hour, it's really 45 minutes because of transitions. And then if 45 minutes really means it really needs to be like 30 to like
Right,
think about my ticks.
right.
Yeah, but I mean, I know that it's not like, "Oh, your time is up, you can't ever say anything else." Like, people will probably come up to me
Right.
and ask me questions, like, "Here's my contact information." Like, I know that that's gonna be a thing too, so
Mhm.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
Very
I will
excited
be
for that
there with you in
in
spirit.
spirit for sure. I'll have to ask you if like sending you pictures and videos is gonna help you or make you more sad. But
I
yeah,
don't know
okay. Maybe I'll
yet.
just take them and send it to you later, like
Yeah.
after the conference.
I think it'll make me happy knowing that I'm missed. Like it Oh, hey, Tux.
Sorry, my dog just jumped on the bed in the background,
That's
just
alright.
chilling.
I think it makes me feel good to know that people are sad that I won't be there. Is that, like
Mhm.
and not in the
Yeah,
least
like
amount
it
of
will be
conceited way
missed.
that I can
Yeah,
say. I guess it feels good to know that people are just, like, they won't notice that I'm not there, I guess.
yeah.
Not that I think that I'm this noticeable. See, now I'm overthinking it. I don't
It's
like to
okay.
ever sound like a conceited person, so, like, that's the problem, but, like I said, when I got that message from Amanda this morning about Ellie being like, she's like, "I
Mhm.
told her a couple of times that you weren't there," and then she asked me again today, and she's like, "She's very mad that
Yeah.
your friends are getting married." Like, I was like, "Well"
I low key am too.
yeah, I'm like, "Well, just a little bit, me too."
Yeah, but it's okay. I mean, it's not conceited. It just feels good to know that you are wanted, that you belong, and then when you're not
Yeah,
there, like you think it won't matter that much, but then when you're
right.
not there, everybody's like, "Oh no!" You're like, "Oh, I didn't know everybody felt this way." Snap.
Right.
So yeah.
So, I think that's why I said I don't know. I think it'll can go both ways, but don't feel bad about doing it because 'cause I'm gonna see it or
Hmm.
whatever, and I'm also gonna be at one Saturday, I'll be at the wedding, so,
Yeah, that's true.
um, I have a open house and then a wedding to go to, so I already had to make those my cousin, I was like, I'm only gonna be there for, like, an hour, don't yell at me."
That's okay.
But, I told her, I was like, "You should feel special." I was like, "I'm making this day super complicated just so I can at least show up for an hour before we drive an hour the other
Yeah.
direction to go to this wedding because I don't wanna miss it. Because 'cause I'm missing her dance recital too, which
Oh.
breaks my heart in half, but it's because 'cause I'm speaking next weekend.
Hmm.
So but, no, I'm so excited, I can't wait to hear all about it from everybody and see because I'm pretty sure even at the live or the in-person one, they share videos online that I'll be able to go back and watch your panel, hopefully.
Yeah.
They'll post it.
I hope so. Yeah.
'Cause it's you, Amanda, Chloe, and Max?
No. There's more
No.
people.
Oh,
So Max is or not moderating it, but I guess moderating, hosting, asking us the questions on the panel. This panel's geared more towards teens on advocacy, so it's kind of perfect that I'm
okay.
talking about this now. It's gonna be me, Amanda, um, Eli, which I believe that's the name like she likes to go by, um, Alan, and Chloe. So yeah, there will be
Nice, man.
5 people technically answering the
This is
questions,
a
and then Max
superstar
moderating. Yeah,
panel.
I know. You're so kind. But yeah, and then I will be speaking earlier in the day on 5 things your child with TS would want you to know for parents and educators. So,
Awesome. Well, I
very
can't
excited.
wait. So, are they all
Yes.
Saturday? Yours?
Yes. Which
Okay.
is fine with me because I just get it out the way and then
Yep.
be like,
That's
"Whew, we made it." So yeah, if
right.
you are listening and already went and thought, "Oh my gosh, she did so awesome," which I'm saying that, hoping, manifesting it. I
It will.
appreciate it,
That
but
is what will
well,
happen.
thank you. I appreciate it, but just know that yes, I was nervous and was anxious and was practicing and like, bleh, what do I do? But I'm sure it'll
Right.
be okay.
Like I said, I thought I was gonna puke on the elevator on the way down. I was never more scared in my life, so you're not alone.
Aw,
But,
it's okay.
no, you're gonna do
I
amazing.
appreciate it.
Everybody's gonna do amazing. Please tell
Yeah,
everybody that I said hi, and I love them
of
all, and I
course.
miss them so much, and I wish I could be there.
Yes, I will for sure. And I guess yeah, I want to do like a last, I guess, word of advice to people
Yes,
in regards to
yes.
advocacy. I would say, I guess wrapping it up, yeah, I would say if you're interested in doing so, this has been a good podcast to talk about because we've talked about some pros, some cons, some things to prepare for. If you are wanting to know more information about it, you can feel free to email us at
Mhm.
tourettepodcast@gmail.com. Um, and if you are somebody that already is advocating and you just listened for the fun of it, thanks so much. We'd love to get to know you more and support your advocacy. And if you are somebody that is advocating and is burnt out, I hope that this was a little refreshing to you to know that you're not the only one and it's okay to take breaks.
Yeah. Man, I think that just nails everything. Like, that you said
Okay.
it all. So, Just know,
Yes.
like she said, it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to be scared. And just know that we support you and you do have a community and a family online. And um, also, if you want to try your first advocacy thing, let us know. Let's get you on the
Yeah.
podcast. And then
Yeah.
also, just so you know, like, because we do want to have guests again. This isn't just going to be the Jhonelle and Brittany show here. We want to have
No, it's
guests
not.
again. But what we do want to do, I think we maybe mentioned it in the first episode. You think I would remember because I literally just listened to it,
Yeah,
the first
it's okay.
episode again. And it was funny because I was like, this is out. I'm like, we've talked about this. Don't do
Yes,
this.
it's okay.
Shout out Scott. I love you. If you're hearing this, I love you so much. Um, but we also want to do like a grab bag. So like if there's questions or topics you want us to
Mhm.
answer, so when we do episodes where we don't have guests, like it's a topic you want our input on, or you just want to hear us talk about it,
Yeah.
send it over to that Tourette's podcast at gmail.com. Comment on the Facebook, the Instagram, whatever it is. And then also reach out if you'd like to be a guest. Amanda, I'm looking at you. You're going to be on our podcast, whether you like it or not.
Yes. We've got some
But yeah,
people. We've got some ideas, but for sure,
yes,
if
we
you
have some
also
people
wanna
that
be on, hit us up.
yes. So we're hoping the next episode we'll have a guest again with us.
Mhm.
And just yeah, don't be afraid to start your advocacy journey if you're on the fence. Don't be ashamed to start your advocacy journey. Don't be ashamed if you're not ready to start your advocacy journey. But yeah, if
Those
you
are all
want
good points.
advice, yeah, anything like that, you can reach out to us. Jhonelle and I are here all the time. And again, if I'm not answering a message, send it again.
Yeah.
I'm terrible sometimes at sending, and like social media is terrible at like not showing me them too
Yeah, that
sometimes.
too. Sometimes we don't get the notifications,
Yeah,
and then it's, like,
so
in some random other folder, but
right, and I
yeah.
don't look at that a lot because it's
Mhm.
already overwhelming sometimes. So, but yeah, thanks for listening, and thank you, Janelle, for another amazing talk.
Thank
I
you.
love
It's
doing
always
these, and
fun.
I love talking to you. I was so tired before this, and I feel like I'm like re-energized now.
Yay, that's awesome. Well, thank you
Yes,
guys so much for listening. We hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.
bye.